Hello, everyone. Before we get started, I'm going to allow a few minutes to allow others to join in. So I'm going to put it in the chat. So just so everyone knows, we're just allowing a few moments to let others join in. Hello, hello, hello. We're just allowing a few moments to allow others to join in. So we will be starting momentarily. We're going to give about 2 more minutes to allow others to join in, and then we will get started. Hello, everybody. Thanks you for joining. We're just waiting for about 1 more minute to allow more people to join, and then we will get started. Okay, so hello, everybody. My name is Shakoy. I am the Youth Program Coordinator here at Frontlines, and welcome back to the What's on My Plate program. So for this week, we will be talking about ways to boost your self-esteem. We also will be making some pancakes from scratch. So yeah, so we'll be making everything ourselves. So let's get started. So before we get into our tips on boosting self-esteem, we're actually going to take a little quiz. So if you guys were able to stop by today, or if your boxes dropped off to you, we're going to be opening our boxes, and we're going to take out the sheet of paper on top. And the sheet on top will look something like this, and it is a quiz. So for those of you that that have gotten your box and have this with you, you'll just be circling here. And those of you at home that do not have our sheet, I'll be reading it so you guys can follow along at home and do the quiz at home as well. So I'll read the directions. So this is a self-esteem survey. So the directions are very simple. Please circle the number for each question that describes your agreement with each statement. Okay? So so for those of you at home that do not have the sheet, just to let you guys know, there are 10 questions. And then the answers range from strongly agree, which is 3, agree somewhat, which is 2, disagree somewhat, which is 1, disagree strongly, which is 0. So for those of you at home, so you guys can write 1 to 10 on a piece of paper. For your answers, you write 3 to 0, which again, 3 being strongly agree, 2 being agree somewhat, 1 being disagree somewhat, and 0 being disagree strongly. And then as I read the questions, all you guys have to do is circle your answer right here. Okay? Really simple. So I'll get started with the first question. So, I feel that I'm a person of worth, at least on an equal par with everyone else. So again, I'll repeat the question. So, I feel that I am a person of worth, at least on equal par with So I'll repeat the question. So I feel I'm a person of worth, at least on par with everyone else. So for those of you at home, if you have the sheet, please circle your answer from 3 to 0. Again, 3 is strongly agree, 2 is somewhat agree, 1 is disagree somewhat, and 0 is strongly disagree. So you guys at home, you can follow along. So the first question is, I feel that I'm a person of worth, at least on an equal par with everyone else. So I'm gonna give y'all 30 seconds to circle your answer. Okay, so the second question is, I feel that I have a number of good qualities. So I'll repeat the second question again. I feel that I have a number of good qualities. And then again, feel free to circle your answer. Strongly disagree, which is 3, agree somewhat, which is 2, disagree somewhat, which is 1, and strongly disagree, which is 0. I'm gonna give y'all 15 seconds to answer that. I feel that I have a good number of qualities. Next question. All in all, I am inclined to feel that I am a failure. So I'll repeat the question again. So number 3, all in all, I am inclined to feel that I am a failure. So again, circle your answer. 3 is strongly agree, 2 is somewhat agree, 1 is disagree somewhat, and 0 is strongly disagree. So our fourth question here is, I am able to do things as well as most other people. So I repeat, our fourth question here is, you guys can't see that. So our fourth question here is, I am able to do things as well as most other people. So again, 3 is strongly agree, 2 is somewhat agree, 1 is disagree somewhat, and 0 is strongly disagree. Our fifth question is, I feel I do not have much to be proud of. So our fifth question here, I feel that I do not have much to be proud of. And again, 3 is strongly agree, 2 is somewhat agree, 1 is somewhat disagree, and 0 is strongly disagree. So moving on to our sixth question is, I take a positive attitude towards myself. So our sixth question here is, I take a positive attitude towards myself. And again, 3 is strongly agree, 2 is agree somewhat, 3 is disagree somewhat, and 0 is strongly disagree. Moving on to our seventh question here. On the whole, I am satisfied with myself. So our seventh question here is, on the whole, I am satisfied with myself. And again, we have 3 for strongly agree, 2 to agree somewhat, 1 is disagree somewhat, and 0 is strongly disagree. Our eighth question, I wish I could have more respect for myself. So our eighth question here is, I wish I could have more respect for myself. And again, circle your answer. 3 being strongly agree, 2 being somewhat agree, 1 being disagree somewhat, and 0 being strongly disagree. Our ninth and second last question, I certainly feel useless at times. So our ninth question here is, I certainly feel useless at times. And then again, circle your answer, 3 being strongly agree, 2 being somewhat agree, 1 being disagreeing somewhat, and 0 being strongly disagree. And our last and final question for our self-esteem survey is, at times I think that I am no good at all. So our final question here is, at times I think that I am no good at all. So again, circle your answer. 3 is strongly agree, 2 is agree somewhat, 1 is disagree somewhat, and 0 is strongly disagree. Okay, so that's the end of our survey. So to score your survey, what you do is you add up all the numbers that you circled for your answers. So you just add all those numbers up, and the higher your score is, indicates you have a greater self-esteem, and the lower your score is means you have a low self-esteem. So again, all you have to do is to find out the answer to your survey is you take your answers from here that you circled and you add all those numbers up. The higher your number, the higher your self-esteem. The lower your number, the lower is your current self-esteem. So I'm gonna give a minute for people to add up their numbers, and to do that. So I'm gonna give a minute for everyone to add up their numbers. and to find out if they have a high self-esteem or low self-esteem. Give everyone 30 more seconds to add up and to figure out if they have a high self-esteem or low self-esteem. Okay, so moving on to the next part of our activity. So we just did a self-esteem survey, asked 10 questions, and we scored ourselves to figure out if we have, starting off, if we have high self-esteem, a higher self-esteem, or a lower self-esteem. So regardless if we have a high or low self-esteem, the next part of this is going to help us regardless. So our next part of our activity is tips and tricks that we can use to boost our self-esteem. So first is a question that I'm going to answer before I get into how we can boost our self-esteem. So why do we need tips to boost our self-esteem, you may ask? So sorry, my voice cracked really bad. So low self-esteem can impact our lives in a significant way. They affect every area of our lives, including our relationships, our jobs, and social lives. If you ever feel that you are experiencing low self-esteem, you can use these tips to help boost it right on up. So the first tip we have here is identifying the issue. So think about the triggers that you have in your life. Think about the areas in your life that make you feel a certain way. Identify the problem areas of your life and see if you can find the root cause of each problem. This will allow you to identify and diagnose the problem. It could be issues at home. It could be issues with an important relationship. So that could be family, friends, or with a significant other. Sudden change in life, such as a loss of a job, bad grades, or issue with your family or friends. So that's our first tip. Our first tip is identifying the issue. So tip number 2. So tip number 2 is be mindful of your thoughts and your beliefs. So now that you have identified some of your triggers and issues that cause your low self-esteem, you can now pay attention to those triggers and help yourself develop a better understanding of how those issues are affecting your self-esteem. Question the negative triggers and the sources of those triggers and ask yourself if they are relevant, if they matter, and why they are affecting you negatively. So step 1 was to identify the issue. Step 2 was to be mindful of your thoughts and beliefs. So moving on to 3 now. So do not be afraid to challenge negative thinking. So your thoughts about yourself do not define your identity as a person. Thoughts come and go. Thoughts are uncontrollable and do not have the meaning unless you want them to have meaning. Often, individuals who have low self-esteem are a victim to irrational thinking, thoughts that do not hold any value, and thoughts that are foreign in nature. When analyzing your thoughts, try to remember some of these tips. Mental filtering. So you can only filter negative thoughts. When you have thoughts, you only focus on the negative. Try changing up your thoughts and to focus and start thinking of all the positives. Next one is negative self-talk. This is a common trait. This is a common trait regarding low self-esteem. Too much negative self-talk will lead to low self-esteem. You undervalue yourself, talk yourself down, and do not give yourself enough appreciation. Always jump into negative conclusions. When your thoughts happen, you constantly. Oh, sorry. The next one is always jumping to negative conclusions. So when your thoughts happen, you constantly jump to the worst possible conclusion. This is more common than you may think. Try your best to view all the possibilities rather than focusing on the worst. So, just a quick review. We covered three tips already. So, one was identifying the issue, two was be mindful of your thoughts and beliefs, and three was do not be afraid to challenge negative thinking. So, our fourth and final tip and trick is to adjust your thoughts and beliefs. So, when it comes to negative thinking, a great way to combat it is to replace those thoughts with positive thinking. Here are some of the best strategies to help you adjust your thinking, adjust your thoughts and beliefs. Forgive yourself. Be kind to yourself and love yourself. Treat yourself with encouragement even when no one else does. Always remind yourself that you can overcome the obstacles. Two, the next one is to focus on the positive. Realize that mistakes are a part of life. Literally, every single person makes a mistake in life. It is important to focus on the positives rather than only focus on your mistakes. Next one is rebel bad thoughts. When you have a negative thought, do not always react negatively. Instead, try to visualize your negative thought as your mind sending you a signal to try something new, something that is healthy and positive and optimistic. Lastly, encourage yourself. Be sure to encourage yourself and give yourself credit for tasks that you've accomplished. You will boost your self esteem by doing this because you are creating a reward system that is personal to you. So, again, a quick overview for all the tips that we went over. One was identify the issue, two was to be mindful of your thoughts and beliefs, three was do not be afraid to challenge negative thinking, and the final one was to adjust your thoughts and beliefs. So those are all ways to boost your self-esteem. Hope you guys use it to your advantage. And let's get on to the cooking part. So, as I mentioned, we'll be making pancakes from scratch today. So, in your handy dandy kits, if you guys have picked one up, you would have received some butter. So you have to read in English, butter, baking powder, some milk, cinnamon, sugar, flour, eggs, and vanilla extract. Oops. So before we get into this, I'm gonna go wash my hands as I suggest y'all do too, and we'll be right back to get into the cooking. Okay, so we're gonna get into the cooking here. So you guys would first need a big bowl to put everything in. So what we're gonna do first is measure all our dry ingredients. Then we'll add our wet ingredients to it. So we're gonna start. We need 1.5 cups of flour. So I'm gonna measure that out right now. So you would want to sift all your dry ingredients into the bowl, but I can't find a sifter at the moment, so I'm just gonna pour it straight. So we need 1.5 cups of flour. I'm gonna measure that out. Make sure I'm right there on the line. So that's about 1.5 cups. So we're gonna add the 1.5 cups of flour to our bowl. Next, we're gonna need our baking powder, and we're adding 3.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So we're gonna grab our teaspoons here. So 3.5. So this is 1. This is 2. That's 3. And we need 1/2. And this is 1/2. So far we added 1.5 cups of flour to our bowl, and also 3.5 teaspoons of baking powder to our bowl. Next, we'll be adding 1 tablespoon of sugar. So we get sugar. Make sure we have a big tablespoon of sugar. And again, I'm messy, don't mind my mess. See, all clean. And then lastly, for our dry ingredients, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So what we're gonna do is quickly just whisk all of our dry ingredients together. Make sure it's nice and mixed together. Just like so. So we got all our dry ingredients mixed. So what we're gonna do now, before we add our wet ingredients to in here, we're gonna create a little well in the middle of our bowl for our dry ingredients. And this well is gonna hold all of our wet ingredients until we're ready to mix everything together. So I created my little well. I'm gonna show you guys. So that's, oops, sorry. So that's my little well in the middle of my bowl, and all my wet ingredients are gonna go in that hole. So right here, all my wet ingredients are gonna go right here in the middle. Okay. So you're gonna want to add your milk first, which is actually what we're gonna do is we need to melt our butter. So we're gonna take our butter, open this up, so so we need 3 tablespoons of butter. Okay, so 3 tablespoons. So I'm gonna scoop off 3 tablespoons of butter off of here. One, 2, that's about 3. So I got my 3 tablespoons of butter. I suggest you guys put it in the microwave safe bowl. Put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds to get it all melted. So I'm gonna go do that and be right back. I suggest y'all do the same. Go melt your butter, please. 3 tablespoons. So I'm back. My butter is all melted. If y'all can see that there. All right. So what we're gonna be doing first is adding our milk. So you need a cup and a half of our milk here. So a cup and a half. I meant a cup and 1/4 of milk. Sorry, I almost poured too much. So a cup and 1/4 of milk. So that's a cup and 1/4. Try to get the camera up here. So I'm gonna pour it into the well, which is right in the middle here. Okay. It's okay if it runs over your well. That's fine. As long as you try to keep it contained a little bit, it's cool. So you add our milk. What we're gonna do next is, add our egg. So you guys got 3, you only need 1. Save the rest for a meal later or to eat with your pancakes. So we're gonna crack our egg, add it to our well. Ta-da. So we got our egg in there, right? So now we're gonna add our butter, nice, lovely melted butter, just like so. And now we're gonna take our vanilla extract, or whatever you want to call it. Just pop a hole, and we want 1 teaspoon here. So that is my friend right here. 1 teaspoon. Oops. Right into the middle. Okay. So there is a trick to whisking your pancakes. So you don't want to just go at it and whisk your pancakes, because then they get very tender and like not fluffy and like very firm. So you want to mix it while not popping the air bubbles, but you want to make sure it's completely mixed. So it's more of a folding technique. And yeah, you want to keep as much air to keep them nice and fluffy. So you're more so bringing the ingredients together than actually mixing. Okay. So what you want to do is just bring everything together slowly. You want to make sure you don't pop too many air bubbles, but you want to make sure that it's nice and smooth. Make sure everything's nice and incorporated. If it's a little bit chunky, that's cool. Just make sure at least everything is brought together. Okay. So once everything is nice and mixed together, your batter should look something like so. Da, da, da. So what we're going to do now is go over to our stove. So we're at our stove. We have our skillet, frying pan, whatever you're using. Okay. That stove isn't working. Okay, so we're gonna switch over to this side. Okay, that stove is not working, so we're gonna switch over here. Okay. So you want to put your stove on to medium-high heat. Get your pan nice and hot. And when your pan is hot, we're gonna want to use some of our butter to grease the skillet. So that's actually what I'm doing now. Take some of this butter, drop it in. then you just want to have our skillet, our frying pan nice and greased up here. Okay, so our frying pan is nice and hot. It's nice and greased up. So ideally, you want to scoop it out. Each pancake to be like 1/4 of a cup per se, but I don't have any smaller scoops and kind of a big boy. So I'm gonna use a cup for each of my pancakes, but I suggest you guys use 1/4 of a cup. And yeah, so I got my pancake mix here. Just gonna take a scoop. Just gonna clean it off a bit, just like so. All right. So I have my pan nice and hot. I'm actually gonna turn it down a little bit. I got my pancake here. I'm just gonna let it out just like that. So you just want it to brown inside. I don't think this one's going to turn out too well. As we all know, the first pancake is always the roughest looking one, so it's not going to turn out well. I also believe my pan was a little bit too hot. So yeah, you just want to cook it. So you just want to let it cook till both sides are brown. Once bubbles start formulating on your pancake and popping frequently, that's when you know it's good to flip over. So I'm actually going to flip this one. And again, my pan was a little too hot. So yeah. So again, you want to brown both sides of your pancakes. You also want to make sure your pancakes fully cooked too. So that's the first one down. So like I said, my pan was a little bit too hot. So I'm turning down the heat. Also gonna add some more butter to my pan. Some more butter to my pan. And gonna add another scoop here. What I'm gonna use is the back of my scoop to spread it out. So again, you just want to let it go till bubbles start appearing. The next side is nice and brown. This one a nice flip. Okay, that was not too bad. Again, sometimes your pancakes don't turn out perfect, but I'm gonna give you a look here. See how the top's nice and golden brown? You want it just like that, just nice and golden. And you can always trim it up in the pan if it kind of looks a little ugly. Trim off the extra scraps, just like I'm doing right here. All these extra scraps. This one's almost done on the next side. Oh yeah, look at this side. So that's a good looking pancake if I do say so myself. So this one. Feel free every time you need more butter to add more butter. So I'm going to add some more. And again, use the back of your scooper to spread it out. Again, you want to make sure it's cooked fully. So again, You want the bubbles to start formulating and popping. You also want the under half to be nice and golden brown, or cooked, honestly. If it's not golden, it's a little bit well done. You know, that happens sometimes. So I think this needs to flip. Yeah, it flipped. It ain't the prettiest, but you know, sometimes it's about the best you can do. It's not always going to be perfect. And again, feel free to trim off the sides to make it look prettier, as I do. See, this side always turns out better. I don't know why. But, okay, this is going to be our second last one. I'm going to make one more after this. And that's it. Okay, look at this one. That one's nice. That one turned out good. Okay. Again, I'm just trimming up because I like my pancakes to be clean looking. Okay, not bad, not bad, not bad. So this is going to be the last one here. For me at least, if you guys have more batter, feel free to keep on going. But this is my last one. I'm all out of batter. You can see that, all out. A smaller one. Oops, I kind of messed that one up. But you know what? At least the back end looks good. Let's see. Pardon me. Take these scraps. Okay. So, turn off my stove. Okay. So, got my pancakes right here. Looking good. Oops. So, got my pancakes. Turning out delicious. Give it a try. Actually, really good. So, that's it for this week's What's on My Plate. I hope you all enjoyed and learned a few tips to boost your self-esteem. Also, the delicious pancakes. So, I'd like you all to take care, and I'll see you all again next week. Goodbye, everybody.